So I now own an Element, and it's a 5-speed all-wheel drive Element. It's a '03. It's got over 200,000 miles, and I have a lot of plans for this thing. I've wanted one for a very long time, and at least in this area, they are very expensive. These things are not cheap, and the all-wheel drive 5 speeds are pretty hard to find, especially in good condition. And I have big plans for this thing, and so I went ahead and pulled the trigger and I picked it up, and I'm very happy with it. Let me show you guys the car. I got it off somebody. I had to drive kind of out to the boonies, which in my experience is how you find the best deals on cars, but the family owned this for a very long time. It was in their family for like 12 years, and it does have 227,000 miles, and it's got a couple little, beauty marks. It's got a couple of blemishes. There's a little dent there, and there's a little crack on the bumper here, and then there's a little dent over here. And of course, got little minor scratches and wear and tear over the years, but it's in good condition. It's got no rust, a lot of service records, and it is an all-wheel drive 5-speed, so that was pretty much everything I was looking for. I did want to try and find a blue one, but they are very difficult to find, and I'm happy with silver. But this is the interior. It's in good condition. Radio doesn't work, but I actually have a radio coming this week. It's going to be like a 10.2 inch Android Auto compatible flat screen, touch screen, display here, and that's going to allow me to watch movies on it or do whatever I want to do on it, because I do plan on turning this into a camper conversion. And so the back seats are going to come out, and I actually have somebody also coming. It's the same guy who does the radio. He's a buddy of mine. He's going to be tinting all these windows. Now, these windows are already tinted, but they're going to be tinted even darker. We're going to do 5% in the back and 15% in front, and the windshield's going to have nothing, because I drive over a lot of mountain passes at night. And so if I tint the front windshield, it makes it really difficult to see. But I plan on lifting it eventually, getting some all-terrain tires on here, and I'm gonna put a bed and some cabinets in the back, and just slowly over time I'm gonna build myself a nice little camper conversion. I do love winter camping. In this area, winter camping is really popular, and being able to sleep comfortably in your own car just makes it that much better of an experience. I do have a camper conversion vehicle already. I have a first-gen CRV. That's a all-wheel drive 5-speed as well. It's like on a 2-inch lit with some all-terrain tires, and it's done the job. I've been very happy with it. I drive it up in the mountains in upwards of a foot of snow. No issues at all. But it's too small in the back. I got a bed back there, and it's just too small. It's too crowded. And when me and my girl go up there, we just don't have enough room. And I got the car for very cheap a long time ago, and I converted it to a camper conversion, and I've been very happy. But it's time to put those seats back in, and it's time to turn this one into my camper conversion. Eventually I would love to get the swivel seats, but the suicide doors are just amazing. They give you all this access here, and the rubberized flooring is another thing I'm a big fan of. And it's got the pop top sunroof, or skylight, whatever you want to call it. So that is going to be a great touch when I'm at night. And then we'll have the windows tinted, and I'm going to have that touch screen. So hopefully this thing comes out pretty good. But I'll show you guys the radio when it gets installed tomorrow, and we'll check it out and see what it, all the features that it has. It also is going to have a backup camera, because I figured why not just get it installed when I have it all done. That way it's just, done at once. But yeah, this radio doesn't even work. So there's nothing going on here. I already checked all the fuses. I checked it has power and ground. Somebody else was already in here. But either way, since it's going to be my camper conversion, I figured why not just go ahead and get something nice in there right away. But yeah, I'll show you guys more when the radio gets installed. Alright, well, it's actually been a few months since I filmed that video about the Element. You can see I've cut my hair. No longer have long hair, and I shaved my face. It was beginning of summer when I filmed that, and it's now fall here. I just decided to take some time off. You know, I was working a whole lot less, wasn't really doing anything to my cars. I was doing a lot of fishing, some hiking, just enjoying myself. But now that it's fall and I want to get up to the mountains and I need a camper to get up to the mountains, I'm getting ready to get started on the Element right here. And I did get the tint in the radio like I said I was going to. That's pretty much all I did to the car. So today I have some plans to get started on the lift kit. I've got to test fit a few things, and then I'm going to order a few things after I test fit, and I'm going to show you guys some wheels and tires that I got for it. But first I'll show you guys the tint and I'll show you guys the radio. Alright, before I put this thing on the lift, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the tint. If you remember, it was tinted before, but now you can't see through it at all. I decided just to go ahead and get 5% all the way around. And from the inside you can actually see out of it pretty well, but you can't really see into it at all unless you get like very close. And the radio I got installed is a Boss Audio touchscreen. You can see my fingerprints all over it. I don't have the key, otherwise I'd turn it on, but this thing has been phenomenal. I can Android Auto to it. I figured out how to get screen mirroring to work, so I can watch a movie on my phone and play it on here. You know, it's got radio, it's got everything you need, so I've been very happy with this unit. Another thing I like about this unit is you can actually pull it out. It unclips from the actual unit, the radio unit behind it. So if I'm ever in a sketchy area, I can just go ahead and pull that out and tuck it somewhere safe. But yeah, this is where I'm at with the car. You can see I still have some fishing gear in here. I was just going out a couple weeks ago. But you can see I took the rear seat out, and I actually have this cabinet in here. So I actually got this cabinet for free. This cabinet came inside a vehicle that we took in on trade at the dealership, and I took it out of that Element and saved it for a while, and then now I have it in here. See, I have some paper towels. I've already been camping in this thing once. I just laid down some blankets here and we slept in the car. You know, none of this stuff was here, obviously. But you can see, you know, I got just some stuff, some medicine, sunscreen, hand sanitizer, toilet paper, some seasoning, stuff like that. Down here I keep some stuff that are like emergency roadside stuff, first aid kit. Up here is just more utensils, bags, stuff like that. And obviously I'll get this more situated when I really turn this thing into a camper. I was just kind of in a hurry to get it all together for the weekend I was going camping. But yeah, we're ready to turn this thing into a full-blown camper. I plan on taking the bed out of the other car and putting it in here. But for now, we're going to get started on this lift kit. Alright, so a couple things I got for the car. This is the lift kit right here. These are 2-inch spacers for the rear, and these are 3-inch spacers for the front. I got these off eBay, some company in Texas that makes them. They actually seem like a pretty good quality, and they were only 150 bucks. But I plan on doing something a little different if I can. That's what I'm here to test fit is. I plan on trying to double stack these. I am going to see if I can't get both of these on in the rear and both of these on in the front, and see if I can actually fit that up. And if I can, then I'm going to go see if I can't find some type of 3-inch spacer or 3-inch collar with some longer bolts, so I can kind of put together my own 6-inch lift. I know I need to drop down a bunch of the running gear and stuff for the lift if I go ahead and do this. If I can't seem to make it work, then I'm just going to run a 3-inch lift and call it a day for now, and when I get some more money, I will do the 6-inch lift. These are some front camber bolts that I got that I'm going to be installing with the lift, so I can adjust the camber in the front. These are rear camber bars, so I can adjust the camber in the rear. And I'm going to go ahead and run these 1-inch spacers that I have so that I can get a little bit more clearance for the wheels. And these are the wheels. These are some Jeep wheels that I got. I got the whole set for like 200 bucks. I had one of my buddies, he's a detailer here at the dealership. He went ahead and cleaned these up for me. It came with a set of 5. There's a spare over there. So I got a set of 5 wheels. And then I got these tires right here. These are 31 by 10.5s, 15-inch wheel. So I'm going to go ahead and get these installed on these wheels. And I actually got the tires for free. Another buddy of mine didn't need them. They were brand new, never used, and he just gave me the set of 4. So lucked out there. But this is the tire and wheel setup that I'm going to use for now. And you need a 1-inch spacer on these wheels. These wheels will not clear the brake caliper unless I put a 1-inch spacer on there. I'm pretty happy with having some Jeep wheels, and I'm definitely happy with these tires. It's going to be a little bit of a chore to get some 31s on here, but I believe I can make that happen. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and get the wheel pulled off. I'm going to get the strut pulled off, and I'm going to see if I can't get both those spacers to actually fit on here. So, with both those installed together on top of the strut, this is what it looks like. It's definitely a lot of height extension there. So now I'm going to go ahead and just see if I can't get this in the vehicle. If I can get this in the vehicle, I know that most likely I will be able to make this 6-inch lift work. Of course, I also have to be able to make both those spacers work in the rear, but for now we're going to go ahead and try and get this in the car. And see if I can't just get it to at least bolt up. Grab a couple of these nuts. Definitely added a lot of weight, that's for sure. But we'll go ahead and see what we can do here. All right, so I finally got the spacer on up there. It's two 6-inch spacers up, or 3-inch spacers up here, and that was not easy to do. And I'm not even still 100% sure it's gonna work. I'm gonna test fit the wheel on it here in a second. The one thing I did notice is this tie rod here, I don't know if you can see or not, is bending just from all the weight of being on the frame here. So I don't know if I'm gonna have to notch out the frame right there. But I'm gonna see when I put the wheel on if it's still touching. But I was able to finally get it bolted up, got the camber bolt in here. I had to get a second hand, as you saw. But you know, for now at least I know this part will work. I'm gonna go ahead and get that wheel fit on, and I'm gonna see if that tie rod is still touching. All right, so I got the wheel on, and the car is completely off the lift, and the tie rod is not touching the frame anymore, and the wheel has clearance from the strut. Obviously, I'll have to do some trimming with the plastics here, probably back here too. Probably just pull the whole fender liner off. But we know that the front is gonna work as long as I can find some way to drop down the subframe and all that. But as far as those double spacers, it's gonna work. So I'm gonna go ahead and start working on the back to see if I can't fit both of those. And once I have both of those fitted on, I can go ahead and order the second lift kit for the other side, and I can start working on dropping all the running gear down, the exhaust, all that. But super happy with how that came out. Very aggressive look. Hopefully it's able to drive in some snow pretty well. But let's go ahead and get started on that backside. Well, my phone died shortly after I started filming for the rear strut here, but I finally got it in, and it's bolted into the bottom here, and this was very difficult. And you can see that this strut is not happy. The strut is at a huge angle. It's probably broken by now. I don't really care though. But I think in order to finish this install here, I'm gonna have to do a 3-inch lowering for the trailing arm and the rear diff. And so I'm gonna go ahead and just call this a success for getting this in here, and I'm gonna get everything I need to lower down all the running gear, and then I will finish up this install and then finish up the other side. But for now, this is where I'm gonna stop for tonight, because I'm gonna go ahead and order the other side, the lift kit for the other side. And one thing I just realized was the original lift this kit was designed for, these spacers, was 3 rays in the front, 3-inch and 2-inch rays in the back. And I'm wondering if doubling these isn't gonna work, because I should need 6 in the front and 5 in the back. So I'm not 100% sure how that's gonna work. I might be able to reach out to them if this doesn't work and see if they can't make me a 5-inch spacer for the rear. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and just try 4 inches in the back and 5 up front, or 6 up front. So, but I will continue filming when I get some more pieces. All right, so I'm ready to finish up this lift kit for the Element today. Pretty sure I have every component that I'm gonna need, and I will be able to get this thing to the alignment bay and get an alignment done on it. So off camera, I was able to get some stuff done. I went ahead and
finished getting all the strut spacers in. I have all the strut spacers on the front and the rear in, and everything's where it's supposed to be. It's just not tightened up yet. And I went ahead and got trailing arm spacers on both sides for the rear, and all 4 subframe bolts for the rear. They're all lowered using these spacers and extended bolts. And same thing for the rear diff. The rear diff has these spacers, kind of hard to see, but there are, yeah, there it is. There's the spacer for the rear diff. They're all the same spacer, they're 3 inches. The bolt lengths, how I calculated it was, I went ahead and just pulled a bolt out for each item I was trying to drop, and I measured the bolt and added 3 inches. So I got the rear diff, the subframe in the back, and the trailing arms all dropped down. And I got all of the suspension put together, just needs to be tightened. And then I went ahead and also dropped down the drive shaft using the same spacers and just extended bolts. The one thing that was holding me back was the front subframe. I was waiting on the bolts for the front subframe. They are M14 by 1.5 and like 7 or 8 inches long, something like that. So it's a very difficult bolt to find, and I had to wait a long time. And so I'm gonna go ahead and get these 3-inch spacers in between the front subframe and the chassis. I'm gonna get those bolts in there. Then I'm gonna go ahead and get everything tightened up, and then I should be able to put the wheels, tires on and go do an alignment, and this thing should drive just fine. So let's get started on that. All right, so that wasn't too difficult. I went ahead and got all the spacers in, and I got them like nice and centered. All the bolts are in. They're just snug for now. And I'm gonna go ahead and get everything torqued up. I'm gonna look up some torque specs from the service data, and I'm gonna get everything torqued down. Then I'm gonna get the wheel spacers on and get some wheels on it. Another thing to point out is a lot of the little like brake hoses and these O2 sensors and all that, I had to lower them a little. And so I put a little spacer in between this bracket and the chassis and just a little bit longer of a bolt, and that took some tension off of those. And I have not done that yet for the parking cables or the brake hoses or any of that stuff. You can see the brake hose used to go to here, and it will no longer be able to reach that far. So I'm gonna go ahead and just try and find some kind of bracket to go ahead and mount that thing up. And I'm not gonna worry about the exhaust hangers for now, because it still has this one exhaust hanger that is attached to the subframe, so it lowered with the subframe. And of course, the exhaust is mounted to the manifold. So, I mean, it's pretty solid. I know it's missing 2 hangers, but for now, I think it's gonna work. And then also this evap canister used to mount to the subframe, and I'm not sure if I'm still gonna be able to do that or what I'm gonna do about this, but I'm gonna try and get something set up for this so it's not just flopping around. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and get everything torqued down. All right, so I'm on All Data here, and I searched up an 03 Honda Element, and I'm basically gonna go through here and search each component that I loosened, and I'm going to look up the torque spec for those bolts. And you can see that the front subframe bolts are 76 foot-pounds. And I'm gonna go ahead and write that down, and then look up the rear subframe, write that down, and I'll come up with a list of all the torque specs for all the major components that I loosened. And then I'm gonna go ahead and get everything tightened up. It is the time I've been waiting for a while, and that is the time to throw these wheels on and go do an alignment and actually get to drive this thing. So these are all mounted and balanced, as you guys saw, and all the suspension is tight except for a few bolts, and I'll show you guys that in a second. I went ahead and got the wheel spacers on, and one thing I didn't show you guys was I went ahead and ordered some 2-inch wheel spacers. And the reason I did that was there was not a whole lot of clearance between the tire and the strut, and I was worried it might end up rubbing or something. So I went ahead and ordered the 2-inch wheel spacer, so that way I had no issues guaranteed. And these are all tight, you know, tightened down to 88 foot-pounds, and all the suspension is tight. So the only thing that's loose would be these 2 strut bolts, and that would be so I can adjust the camber, because I'm going to do an alignment and I have some camber bolts in here. So when I'm at the alignment rack, I will go ahead and torque these down once I have the camber where I want it to be in the front. Everything else is tightened. You can see all the subframe is done. And back here, I went ahead and did some things. So I was actually able to get one of these bracket bolts for the evap canister into its original mounting spot. So I went ahead and did that. And the bracket is just sitting above the subframe. But the one bolt, I mean, it's not going anywhere. This thing is tight. And as far as the brake cable and the brake hose, what I did was I went ahead and just used these brackets here. It's about a 3-inch bracket, and I put it in there, and it just kind of extends the mounting spot for this hose up a few inches. And same thing with the cable here. So I went ahead and had this bracket, or used this bracket I had, and I just bent it a little so it lined up properly, and it works out fine. There's a little bit of slack in both these. This is a little bit tighter than I want it to be, but I think that's exactly how it was originally anyway. And then you can see here that this camber adjustment arm is still loose. The end bolts are tight, but the center collar, the adjusting collar, is still loose. And then when I'm done, I'll go ahead and clip this back in. But everything else is tight. Everything else is torqued to spec. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these wheels on here, and I'm gonna go take it to the alignment shop, and then after that, theoretically, it should be good. I'm gonna go ahead and measure when I'm all done, measure the height difference, because I originally recorded the height of the subframe off the ground and the height of each of the top of the fenders from the ground. So I'm gonna do another measurement after the lift is done to see how much clearance I actually got. But overall, pretty happy with how easy this installation was. Everything kind of worked out. Oh, and one thing I did for the exhaust, just for now, until I get some of these extended exhaust hangers, is I just cut the ends off of an old U-bolt for a leaf spring, and then I just put this exhaust hanger down here onto the exhaust, onto the U-bolt, and then up here through the top hanger. And the reason I had to do that was this was actually resting on the axle, and it's kind of hard to see, but I now have about 1/2 inch clearance, and I'm sure it'll be more clearance once the wheel's on and it kind of pushes everything up. But I had to at least get something on here, so that way it kind of held it away from the axle, because before it was like up here. It was like pushed way back. So this is gonna work for now. It's not permanent. I have extended hangers coming in the mail. They're just not here yet. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get these wheels on, get it lowered down, and get it over to the alignment bay. All right, this is the final product right here. Everything's done.
The alignment's done, everything's tight, drives good. I'm not gonna measure the height difference right now, I'll do that later. But I'm super stoked with how this came out. This is actually the next day. I did the alignment last night, and so I drove it home and really happy with how this thing came out. Pretty excited to get this thing out in the snow. I have plans to go out next weekend and rip this thing in the snow. For now, I'm just gonna keep driving it on the street, and I'll probably get it back in the air and make sure everything's tight here in a couple days. But super stoked with how tall and aggressive it looks. It did have some clearing issues here in the front. You can see I did this on both sides, but trimmed down this fender liner, trimmed down the bumper a little. It does have a little bit of rubbing right here in the back, but it's not bad, and hoping it'll just kind of self-clearance over time. But other than that, no drivability issues whatsoever. But yeah, in the next video I'll go ahead and measure the difference so that, you know, I can know exactly how much gain, height gain I was able to get from this lift. And then I'm gonna test it in some snow, so hopefully that goes well too. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I appreciate everyone who watched, and I will see you guys on the next video.